label me an alcoholic or someone with addiction issues. I know because this has already happened with the press. Statements will go out that I want attention and am self-serving. A person who wants to profit off the Trump family. More anonymous sources will follow up to say that I was never loyal and leaked to the press, the biggest sin of all in the Trump administration. The president, and maybe even the First Lady, will pretend they hardly knew me, or they will sue me, or both. I know all of this because that is what we did to everyone else who decided to tell their truth or who stood up against things they thought were wrong. It is what I did personally to many people because it is the Trump formula. When you're in, you're in. And when you're out, you're denied and then destroyed. It's something of poetic justice, I guess, that I was once a destroyer myself. I had been with the Trump family almost from the beginning of their political crusade, maybe the only person in history who worked at the most senior levels at the same time for the president and his wife. I spent nearly every holiday with them and flew with them all over the world. I was with the boss in private meetings with foreign leaders where he would say the most bonkers things and also, to be fair, often fight hard for our country. I was his spokeswoman during the first impeachment when he tried to get me to humiliate myself in front of the press, and I had to trick him out of it. I was involved in standoffs with members of the Trump family over one thing or another, and I became a confidant of his wife, along with her 2 children, her son and her photo collection. She loved her son the most. But back to the horror that was January 6th, 2021. Each time I tried to leave the White House for one reason or another, the First Lady, whom I felt close to and protective of, talked me out of it. She was very persuasive, including with her husband, at least sometimes. But she couldn't talk me out of leaving that day. I'd had a sick feeling in my stomach all morning, which was unusual. After 5 years of being immersed in all things Trump, you grew immune to chaos. Even in a weird way, comfortable with it. There became something almost soothing about the knowledge that you are simply captive to a whirlwind you can't ever control. So you sit back, focus on staying alive, and let the winds take you where they will. In fact, the longer I was there, a sick pride built in me that I had outlasted so many others. What should have been warning signs were twisted into badges of honor. Still, there was something different in the air this time. I just felt it. Then I saw it. I watched as a group of very angry and frenzied people scaled the walls of our Capitol, egged on by the president and his months of conspiracy mongering, thanks, Rudy. They were on their way to behead Mike Pence, kill AOC, or arrest Nancy Pelosi. Who the hell knew? It was scary and sad and sick, and in some ways inevitable, I guess. Of course, this was how it was all going to end. Still, I had a job to do. I was the First Lady's top aide, so I texted her. She had often been the sensible one. She had been the first to react to the violent clashes in Charlottesville, and how many times had we worked together and occasionally even succeeded in getting the president to dial back his rhetoric to calm one situation or another. I'd lost count. I suggested that we send out a tweet immediately calling for an end to the violence and urging people to stand down. At 1:25 p.m., I texted her. Do you want to tweet that peaceful protests are the right of every American, but there is no place for lawlessness and violence? From the executive residence of the White House, literally 1 minute later, and while she was preparing a photo shoot of a new rug she had selected, yes, you heard that right, Melania Trump sent me back a one-word response. No. I looked at that for a minute. A long minute. Then I looked at the TV again. No. So many times over the years, I had pushed back on the caricature of Melania Trump as some sort of Marie Antoinette, cold and cruel and oblivious to the little people over whom her husband ruled. That was not the woman I knew and admired and even had affection for. But that day, as the city of Washington, D.C. descended into violence that had once seemed unimaginable, I finally saw the doomed French queen. Dismissive, defeated,